Hey everybody, welcome to Top Producers. My name is Semaan, aka Joe Coach, and this is officially episode number 2. In episode number 2, I'm going to be talking about how your timing in asking for the close or asking for business might be horribly off and costing you tons of money. In fact, over the past 10 years of coaching, I've found this happening in nearly every single company and desk I've been to. Some pretty fascinating information. Grab a pen and paper, take some notes, share the video, do whatever you gotta do, because once again, I'm probably going to take your sales to the next level because I'm such a nice guy. If you're ready, I am. Let's do it. Not everyone has what it takes to get to the top, but for those of you willing to do whatever it takes, this is for you. Okay guys, so one of my main priorities in these videos is to make sure that the information is so specific and is so alarming that number 1, you cannot help but to want to try it right away, and number 2, you can immediately apply it to the business that you're in. So let's make this happen. Once again, I'm going to ask you to get ready and jot down some notes because I'm going to go over 3 or 4 variables that you might have to implement or spend some time working on your sales flow today. Once you figure this out, once you know this information, you're definitely going to want to put it to the test. Okay, I'm assuming you're ready by now. I'm giving you a couple seconds to get your mind right. Here we go. Whether your sales process is 1 phone call or several months, whether it's 1 day or 3 days, whether you're in the lending business, direct sales, retail, services, B2B, it doesn't really matter. This holds true. What we're talking here is about modern consumer behavior and how people make decisions these days. Now, the sales process itself can be short, medium, long, meaning some of your sales processes are 10 minutes. Some of them are an hour and a half. Some of them are in person, some of them are over the phone. Some of the sales processes for you guys that are watching in some industries might be a 1, 2, 3, 4 day, 5 day close, especially in industries where there's paperwork exchange, possibly underwriting happen, some relationship building, or possibly multiple introductions that need to happen to decision makers before you can move to the close. Here's the key factor. A lot of times people are asking for the business or going for the close with a horrible timing. Let me give you an example. A lot of my clients tend to fill out an application or fill in their CRM or go through their interview or their evaluation. And when they've gotten all the information they need in order to create a benefit for the customer, they then transition to close and start explaining how the product or service benefits the customer. This could be killing your sales. Now, mind you, what you're doing is already closing business, but I'm not talking about closing par or slightly above average. Remember, this video is called Top Producers Only, not sometimes, all the time. So let me explain to you, a few things that you might want to do today to see if your close has the right timing. Now, I'm not saying I know the perfect timing. I'm not going to give you a timestamp in your call. If you're in this industry, close at 30 minutes. If you're in this industry, close at 15 minutes. If you're in this industry, it takes 6 months. That's not what I'm referring to. We design closes. We design when it's the right time to close or ask for business. But I'm going to give you one little snapshot of a tool or a tactic that I use and implement in my clients that really helps them to spruce up their closing ratio. And it happens directly in the area of the close, or kind of helps get rid of that awkwardness when you transition to close, gives you a boost of confidence, and puts your customer in what I call a peak decision-making state. All right. So a lot of times when people go to the close, you as a sales agent have an idea of how this service or product is going to benefit the customer, or what you think they're going to like or enjoy about it, what its features, advantages, and benefits are, or whatever else you've been taught along the way. That's great. I'm glad that you know those reasons. Keep them. You're going to want to, intertwine them and integrate them into your close when needed. As you know, you may have to assume the close several times in order for this person to see the light, especially if your product or service is really, really what they're looking for, but they just can't make a decision. Here's the biggest mistake people are making. When they transition from the application process or from the relationship process to the close, you're doing it because you believe as a sales agent, your process is done. There's nothing else for you to discuss. And so now you're going to attempt to close, demonstrate your product, and its features, or your company's services and your background and your experience, or your processing or your servicing, or whatever it is that you're selling. But here's the problem. You have to understand consumer behavior. Look, if you're gonna be in sales, you have to understand that what you really are is not a product expert. You're claiming that you're a communication expert. So if you're gonna be a communication expert, you need to study modern communication, not necessarily what made you number one 8 years ago, or living off of that pride that you have from a few of the sales you made last month, but really understanding communication and studying it as an art. That's what I do, that's what I deliver. I'm gonna give you a piece today. Throughout your evaluation process, or throughout your conversation with your customers, you need to have strategic questions, well-written questions. You wanna practice these questions. You wanna write them over and over and over and over after practicing until they give you answers from your customer that would become, here's the kicker, unarguable reasons for them to subscribe or purchase your product or service. So you want to design strategically placed questions earlier on in your conversation that unravel or get the person to self-realize unarguable facts, reasons, or measurable details that make your product or service or solution an unarguable decision for your customer, okay? Now, once you have these answers, here's what you do. You keep them on a notepad, you put them in your CRM, you have a separate pad. A lot of times I provide tools to my sales agents so that they have this information perfectly organized. And what you're gonna do is, before you transition to close, you're gonna tell the customer that you just wanna summarize a lot of the important details or things that you noticed are essential or crucial or perfect criteria for them. And then you're gonna take these answers, these unarguable answers, which are also relative to the solution you're about to provide, and you're gonna give them a snapshot of the things that you've taken into consideration, or the things that your company takes into consideration, or what you've noticed is most important to them, their family, their business. And you're gonna summarize these unarguable facts one after the other. Now here's the key. You wanna gather somewhere between 4 and 8 minimum. But they've gotta be meaningful, they've gotta be relative to the scenario that you're in, and they've gotta be relative to the solution. So your solution has to satisfy these, overcome them, solve them, or something. Take the pain away, whatever it is. And you summarize these things, these 4 to 8 items, right before you assume the close, or right before you go over the package, or right before you say, and what we need to do next is, enroll you into package B or to ABC service, because it satisfies all these things and is the ideal scenario for you. Now, what you do when you summarize this information is you put your customer in a peak state. The problem with timing is, when I say you have bad timing, is you're asking somebody to make a decision because you're done with your evaluation, or you're done with your technology, or you're done with your CRM fields, or your application, and you're like, okay, here's what I've come up with. But the person may not be in a decision-making state. They're in an evaluating state. They're in, what you might consider a curious state, not necessarily a willing or a buying state. So when you summarize these facts, what you're doing is taking your expertise and gathering the items that are most influential to this individual and summarizing those as something important to be taken into consideration, or when offering the product, or you've picked it because of these reasons. And that helps put the person in a very nice, collective, isolated peak state, which will last just long enough in order for you to transition to close. By putting people in a peak decision-making state with 4 to 8 unarguable facts gathered from them, not assumed by you, you'll notice that they're much more receptive and much more willing to make a decision on the phone with you, meaning the decision happens during the call. This will help you from, or keep you from getting customers to walk out of your store or say, that's something to consider, give me some time to think about it, or let me go over it with my family, or let me discuss it with my business partner. If you're getting these types of objections or procrastination at the end of your sale, and you know your product or service is the ideal fit for them, and they still need time to think about it, what it means is you've asked them to make a decision without them being in a decision-making state. So now, in order to put themselves in a decision-making state, they're gonna go and try to do that alone. I don't know about you, but I don't want my customers deciding whether or not my product is right for them when they're not in my presence, or in the presence of other people who might have multiple opinions about what to do. I'd rather have a little bit more control over my paycheck and my customers' well-being. So work on that timing. Ask strategic questions, understand the transition to close, summarize all of the details, 4 to 8, even more if you can, to overwhelm the brain with unarguable facts so that it seems like a no-brainer. You reach that emotional threshold and you're able to transition directly into your assumptive close or your conclusion or your next step or whatever it is for you, and you'll notice some magic start to happen toward the end of your phone call. All right? Wow, what a mouthful. That's just one little tidbit of many things that we do in engineering top producer type sales flows. I hope that's helpful. You might have to invest a little bit of time today and figure this out, or ask yourself what questions are great for my industry or for my product or service. You probably won't nail it the first time. I've been developing questions for multiple industries, strategic questions to be placed in their sales flow that seem relative to the evaluation or the conversation or the interview or the application, but really are designed to give us unarguable facts in preparation for our close, because the close has a completely different mindset than the conversation. Once you understand that, you'll start to convert more business. Practice, practice, practice. Time is passing by anyway. Once again, I'm here to make sure you're a top producer. If you're already a top producer in your company, no sweat. I'm gonna keep giving you information anyway. Feel free to share today's video. It's free because I'm such a cool guy. Once again, thank you for joining me at episode number 2, and wish you guys the best this week. Hope you close a lot of business, make a lot of customers happy, and make a lot of